Today, we are going to see an underdog rated almost 700 points give what is a maybe mercy draw to an established champion at the biggest scholastic event in Colorado this year. Let's take a look. I'm National Master Jesse Cohen, this is Summit School of Chess, and this is your quick bite for today. E5, bishop c4, bishop's opening, bishop c5, d3, d6. These players are just playing normal opening so far, bringing out those knights and bishops early and getting their pawns in the middle. h3, kind of an unnecessary move. Vedant might not want future pins from this bishop, but I wouldn't waste time on that. Knight c6, knight f3, knight f6, castles, knight d4. This move is kind of, has some good, has some bad. On one hand, we are violating opening principle by moving the same piece twice, but we're also moving the knight up the board into a better central square. But it's not going to sit there very long because white has the very natural kicking move c3. So, it kind of has its pros and cons. The other pro, I suppose, is that it does free black's c-pawn if we want to use that to help support future advances of d5 or b5. Take, h6. This move actually does make sense if we're going to castle kingside, then maybe we don't want to allow that pin to take place. Rook e1, bishop e6, knight d2, a6, a4, c6. Now typically I would not recommend doing these kind of pawn moves in the opening. They are considered very wasteful when there are more important things we need to do, like get our king castled and finish activating our pieces. But because this position isn't very open, there are not any open pathways really to launch any attacks. There's no real way to exploit this. And so, yeah, bishop b3, pawn b5. Now actually, this turns out to be a borderline losing move. And this is a really, really important moment because this is a lesson I give a lot in my classes, and that is this. It is possible to do the right thing at the wrong time and have a bad result. In this case, b5 is a lovely move that black should play after castling. In this position, white actually has the very, very good idea. Bishop takes bishop, pawn takes, pawn to d4, and all these variations just go in white's favor. If pawn takes pawn, e5, with threats here and here, this king is getting ripped open. This is not what you want to have happen. Instead, black should just castle. Bishop c2. I can't blame Vedant for playing this move. It is a very standard bishop move. If white can play d4 later, this bishop will come back to life because white often does plan a kingside attack. Pawn b4. This is a really hard move to explain. However, this move is actually totally fine. It's really hard to explain because how do you explain to someone that b5 was borderline losing, but now b4 is okay? The only answer I can give you is that it comes down to calculation. In the other variation, white had the whole bishop takes bishop in d4. In this position, d4 just isn't strong enough, unfortunately. After bishop to b6, there just isn't enough going on. And so black's going to be totally fine. Pawn c4. OMG. When I saw this move, my jaw dropped. I am not kidding. It seriously did. This move is like losing, but on a positional level. I'm going to try to quickly explain why this move is so bad. Number one, this move makes this bishop what is a textbook bad inactive bishop. By definition, it's bad because it's saddled on the same color as the center pawns. It's inactive because it doesn't have an active role in this game. Guarding d3 is unnecessary. My coach would call that a tall pawn. I call that a borderline zombie. Zombie is kind of the code name I'm giving for pieces that are still technically on the board but might as well be a dead piece. That is such a useless piece, both now and probably for a very long time, maybe forever. The other reason that this is not so good is that white really, really wanted to play d4 to strike the center and try to open up lines for the pieces and maybe that bishop someday. Now that is gone. Rook b8. Honestly, black should just castle. Rook b1. This was like white's last chance. White should have played knight b3, bishop a7, and d4 while there was still a chance to do this. Unfortunately, rook b1. I can't explain this move. Queen b6. There definitely were some back and forth mistakes, but I kind of want to get to some more important moments that happen here in a bit. Knight b3, king e7. Now this move, the computer is not a fan of, but I actually really, really like it. Here's why. We should be thinking about our king safety. It's the #1 priority in any position. Where would you go in this position? Obviously, castling queenside is out the door because this rook has moved and the pawn shield is kind of broken up over there. But actually, you could argue that the queenside is actually very locked up because of all the pawn shield, all the pawns being just totally locked up over there. So actually, maybe it is an okay idea to go over there, right? The other thing is that, if we castle over here, we're kind of castling where white's pieces are aiming and where we don't have many pieces. We're kind of castling into the attack. Playing king e7 says, I think I can keep my king safe enough. Now again, the computer is not a huge fan of the timing of this move, but I'm telling you, I think the idea is pretty sound. Take, b3, trying to get this bishop activated somehow. Rook d8, bishop b2, queen c7, queen e3, attacking c5. Knight d7. Good move by black. This move begins a very good idea by Shankar that I can only applaud and say this is like master level stuff. I'm going to break this down here in just a second, okay? In this position, besides the simple fact that this guards the c-pawn, black has got to be thinking of the following things. Number one, the biggest thing that black has that white doesn't is the knight. So, creating a locked pawn position where the diagonals aren't open is what black wants to do. This move is going to help black make the position even more locked with pawn f6 and maybe even g5. This move also can redeploy to f8 and maybe e6 where it can hop into either the outpost on d4 or maybe the advanced support point on f4. It's a really, really versatile move. I love this move. Rook f1. No. White had one last opportunity and should have taken it. White has got to open the position. Just like black needs to see what he has that's different and try to act on it. I have a knight, I need to keep a closed position. White needs to do the same thing. I've got bishops. I've got a dark square bishop, my opponent doesn't have one. I should be trying to open up the diagonal. f4 tries to destroy the e-pawn, which will free that bishop. And it's like the last opportunity to do it because after f1 with the rook, black plays the phenomenal move g5. Yes, 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 yes. This is the move we have been waiting for. I know this move doesn't make that much sense, but let me try to explain this in a simple way. One of my favorite world champions of all time, Emanuel Lasker, once said this about his position. He said that the reason he had a winning position was because his opponent had no way to open up pathways to actually activate his pieces. And that he, Black Emanuel, he was the only player able to actually forcefully open up pathways to attack. Because let's face it, if you can't open up pathways for your pieces to go and attack, you can't win. In this position, the last bastion of hope for white to open the position, to open up pathways for the rooks and bishops and queens to get happy, was pawn f4. And now it's basically gone. I mean, let's face it. White has three ways to open this position. Pawn d4, pawn f4, and pawn h4. Well, these are not looking too great. And this is the last option, but that involves white's king safety. So it's not going to go that great. Let's fast forward. King h2. This move might not make much sense, but Vedant knows he's kind of in a must-win situation. In these type of state championships, you basically can't afford to not win any game if you want to guarantee win. The idea behind this is maybe to support g3 and f4, but get off what is going to be an open g-file. f6, g3, h5. King g2. This was seriously the last chance. Vedant needs to play f4 now. But even after h4, f5, h takes g check, queen takes, and bishop f7, black's incoming simple idea of doubling on the h file, I think is just so powerful. I think that black very well can win here, although even the computer can't find it, so I'm not sure about that. But I think a human could win this given enough time. King g2, yeah. Rook h7 and all this good stuff. Anywho, what happened in the game was king to g2, pawn to h4. Now listen, this is an important moment. Psychologically, I'd like to talk to all of you right now, so I hope you're paying attention. As a chess master in training, we have to learn to be objective. What does this mean? Objective means to see a position for how it honestly is. Is it winning? Is it losing? Am I better? What's going on? In this position, Vedant, as the much stronger player, wants to win this game for many, many reasons. Because if he draws, he might definitely get knocked out of being able to win the tournament at all. And so I can see why he would hesitate to play what he should do. In this position, Vedant should be objective and realized that despite his desire to win, he is worse here, possibly even losing, and therefore a draw would be a good option. In this position, Vedant should just play g4 and lock the king side as well, and just form a block, just a defensive position, and say, hey, black, I don't think you can break through. And I don't think black can break through. Even with the knight going to f8, g6, and h4, even with trying to put as much pressure on d3, I think that white can organize the pieces to defend the two biggest weaknesses in this position, d3 and h3, and I see no way for black to make a definite breakthrough. In this position, it only goes on for a couple more moves. It goes rook h1, rook dg8, and here, a surprising outcome. A draw was agreed upon. And at first, I was like, oh my gosh, why would you do a draw? You are playing the best chess of your life, and you are possibly beating a champion. But at the same time, I remember one of my own stories. And here's the deal. When you are much lower rated than your opponent, and you obtain a better position, you kind of get scared that you're going to mess it up. And so even I have offered draws in winning positions to much stronger players because I'm like, I'm going to mess it up. And I kind of have that, like, you know, did I make the right decision kind of thing? Like, you know, I could have maybe gone on to win, but I also could have gone on to lose, you know? And I don't know, maybe that's a regret that I don't know. That's a decision that you're going to have to make. So again, I can understand why Shankar, the definite underdog in this position, decided to do the draw, and Vedant was, you know, objective enough to just be like, yeah, this is bad, and accept it. So amazing game played here, a lot of instructional moments. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please, 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 you know, do it, you know, this is a YouTube channel, so please like, subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. Let's build something awesome, because I think this is really cool, and if you think it's cool too, then let's try to build it and, you know, let more people know about it, okay? Thank you so much. We reached 100 subscribers. I love you with all my heart. I will keep trying to make the content better and better, I promise you, and I will see you soon. I'm National Master Jesse Cohen. This is Someone's Cool at Chess. Goodbye for now.